and we'll get going. Just a quick announcement to everybody, we officially started the recording of this meeting, so we are recording.
Excuse me, as of right now, we have 7 members, which is a quorum. Or was, anyway.
Okay, I think we have one more minute. All right, everyone. Good morning. This is John Elsesser, the chair of the Enhanced 911 Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock on January 6, 2023. I think we have an announcement at the beginning of the meeting. Clayton, you want to share some good news?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. First, I just want to identify the person who called in on 860-212-4407 for the record.
Yeah, that's Brian Bonito.
Oh, okay, Brian. We're getting a little bit of background noise from you as well, so if you could mute yourself, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, thanks, and good morning, everybody. Welcome. I just wanted to share a quick announcement for everybody. So I'm sure everybody in this meeting knows Carrie Thompson, and as of December 30th, she was promoted from planning analyst to director of emergency telecommunications, which was my old position before I got promoted to Director of Statewide Emergency Telecommunications. So I just wanted to announce that Carrie's been with OSET and DSET and the state of Connecticut for a number of years. She's held a number of titles within DSET. She went from research analyst to grants and contract specialist to planning specialist to now director. So we're very fortunate to have her. I very much look forward to working with her in this new capacity, and I can't say how excited I am to continue to achieve all the wonderful things that DSET is achieving and having her in this new position. So join me in welcoming her in her new position, and look forward to working with her in the future. Back to you, John.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats. Be a pleasure to continue working with you. Thank you very much. Next item of business is approval of the minutes for our last meeting on October 7th, 2022. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes? Someone has to
John Bob Guthrie.
Thank you,
John Bob Guthrie, I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Dudek seconds.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Hearing none. Thank you, Bonnie, for another great job. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstentions or votes to the negative? Hearing none, I'll rule that the minutes are adopted. It's kind of protocol for state meetings to offer up public comment at the beginning and end of each meeting. So here's your opportunity for public comment. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I'm going to first talk briefly. The membership of this committee has enlarged. So Clayton and I, at the beginning of the meeting, before the meeting, we're talking about the need to look at our bylaws, because right now a quorum is only 5 members, and as the group grows and has grown over the years, we should look at whether that's an adequate number to represent the whole commission. There's 2 ways that we could do the bylaws. There's not a specific provision to create a bylaws committee, but if anyone's interested in looking at the bylaws and seeing whether we ought to look at things beyond just the number of members for a quorum. So if there's people interested, either just say it now or talk to Clayton or I at a later date. Otherwise, we'll do a more simple staff-driven bylaws amendment for that one issue, or some other tweaks that we deem necessary. But I think it's time for us to clean up the bylaws to look at. They haven't been looked at for a while. So if anyone's interested, please let Clayton or I know, and we'll create an informal process to draft bylaws for consideration of the whole commission. With that, we'll get on to the business that's on the agenda. First is DSET project update.
I believe that's mine. Good morning. My name is Stanley Dombrowski. I am the DSET Emergency Telecommunications Manager. I support the Director, Clayton Northgraves, who manages the overall statewide emergency telecommunications organization and NG911 program. I provide oversight and vendor management regarding a variety of systems, processes, and deployments. I serve as lead project manager for system critical enhancements and liaison to multiple vendors daily. I serve as team lead regarding use of support systems, including reporting and overall NG911 platform support. I provide next level support to State of Connecticut PSAPs as required for any questions, concerns, points of clarity, and am often the focal point for their resolutions. Rapid Deploy Eclipse is my first update. This potential replacement MIS reporting solution is in final stages of evaluation and testing. Pilot PSAPs have been selected for training and early system deployment for system evaluation and usage. Results are expected during the month of January, and if acceptable and agreeable for use, will be rolled out to additional PSAPs starting sometime in February 2023. Any questions on the reporting system replacement? Next update is on Rapid SOS. This anticipated caller location enhancement feature is an early pilot deployment with some PSAPs. It will overlay the existing MapFlex application used today and provide location clarity as to as close as 10 meters. Currently, MapFlex displays location represented as a wide circle of proximity that requires the caller to say their location to the dispatcher before help can arrive. This can be especially helpful when the caller finds themselves needing help anywhere in the state, including remote locations and moving vehicles, and when the caller cannot speak or say where they are. The hope is to save time when locating someone that can translate into help arriving as quickly as possible and saving lives. Training will be by an AT&T technician at each PSAP at the time of installation. Any questions on Rapid SOS? Next, Adder KVM. Adder KVM is a pilot project from the company Adder that will consolidate PSAP desktop space. This optional AT&T supported PSAP upgrade offers the capability to use a single keyboard and mouse to control multiple screens and applications displayed on them. Currently, there are multiple keyboards and mice on the limited desktop surface that takes up valuable desk space. Saving space and saving time should help dispatchers find the application they need to see as easily and efficiently as possible. It is optional and paid for by the PSAP and through the AT&T account team. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, how is the switching done? Is that software on the desktop that's done, or is it a physical switch? I mean, I ask because this kind of thing, I mean, they've had mechanical switchers going back, 20, 30 years ago that were pretty common for that same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's my understanding, it is a hardware deployment that ultimately allows you to use one keyboard, one mouse to switch between the multiple screens that you use or that the dispatcher uses every day. It does require a hardware add-on for that functionality.
Is it a one-time cost for each PSAP to install these?
It's my understanding it is a one-time cost.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else? Next, NG911 laptops are being configured for voice recording enhancements. This will allow dispatchers to record their voice session using the laptops and the capability to recall those sessions from storage. We expect additional updates during the first quarter of 2023. Questions on that one? My last update is on interstate interoperability. We have decided to deploy a state-to-state ESINet solution. The goal is to allow for efficient call handling for calls closely located along a border that currently require inefficient and time-consuming manual transfers between interstate PSAPs for the caller to reach the dispatcher. Each state ESINet vendor will have to be reviewed for compatibility on a case-by-case basis. Currently, AT&T is in talks with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and their vendor for a potential second half 2023 deployment. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any final questions?
Is there any discussion with the state of New York on transfers to them? I know we've had within AT&T, we've had specific complaints about, calls going across the Sound to Long Island and, from Connecticut. It's pretty common from what I'm hearing.
I have heard the same thing specifically. As far as I know, AT&T is not in talks with New York and their ESINet vendor. I am not aware of any of those talks that have started. Once again, the vendor and the compatibility between the AT&T ESINet and the vendor of their choice has to be part of the initial I guess discussion, but I'm not aware of that has taken place yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Clayton. Back to you.
All right.
John, you're muted.
I
There you
tried to mute myself so the phone wouldn't ring in the background, and it was. So here we are. Back to the agenda, land mobile radio.
Hi, good morning. My name is Scott Wright. I'm a senior telecommunications engineer too for the state of Connecticut. I have primary responsibility for the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Network, as well as any conventional radio networks used by the state of Connecticut. Here to talk about our year in review from 2022. It's been a very active year for us. Some of the highlights: in December, we received a $15 million bond approval by the Bond Commission. That's going to assist the Department of Corrections with substantially improved subscriber units. Their radios are woefully deficient, are failing rapidly, and it poses a public safety challenge for them. We're adding a site in the western part of the H subsystem out near the H and L line to help out with enhanced coverage in that area. We're also working with the Department of Veterans Affairs on tower modifications in Rocky Hill. Rocky Hill is a primary site for us. The current water tank that we use has been identified as needing some structural enhancements, and we were working with DVA on those. Per the historical office, we cannot take that water tank down, so we're going to have to be doing some work in place. DOT received $16 million in funding for radio equipment. So that's an additional about 3,000 radios that we're going to be adding to the network, as well as significant capacity enhancements in several areas of the state, including the C, K, and L subsystems. So C is up around the Tolland area. John, that's up in your neck of the woods. The K subsystem down around Colchester, which is a hotbed of activity for us, as well as the L subsystem out by Litchfield. That's also going to be adding a standalone site in Newington, as well as some dispatch positions in their operations centers in Newington and Bridgeport, all of which go to help the Department of Transportation with their mission to keep traffic flowing and improve public safety. We continue with the development of some add-on sites for Cleburne itself. We have pending sites in West Hartland and Danbury. Both of those are somewhat on hold due to product availability. When you hear about problems with the supply chain, this is directly impacted by the supply chain problems. We're also very invested with our municipal add-ons. We have signed contracts with Fairfield, North Branford, Norwalk, and Wilton to come on the network. They are adding hundreds of subscriber units, as is the city of Norwich Fire Department. And we are working with the folks down in the Groton area as well on the fire departments in that area. However, Fairfield, North Branford, Norwalk, and Wilton are each adding at least two sites to the network. The net effect of this is this will impact all of the users down in the G subsystem down in Fairfield County, with significantly increased coverage for our users in that area, including the state users as well as the municipal users. And it's a great example of the partnering between the municipalities and the state on getting things done. I wanted to bring to your attention some of the statistics that kind of show how much this system has grown over the last couple of years. And when I talk about some of these statistics, I'll give you some examples from 2020 to 2022. So this system had about 94.8 million push-to-talks in 2022. We had 9,360 some odd thousand airtime minutes. We average about 180.5 push-to-talks a minute. The users on the system talk about 6.1 seconds every time they talk. We had 833 active talk groups this past year. And of those, the 94 million push-to-talks, almost 31 million of that, or about a third of that, were on the trunk system. So that tells you the impact of the conventional system as well. So it's not just the trunk side. We have a number of console users, LCD, Northwest Connecticut Public Safety, in particular, town of Darien, town of Madison, soon to be the town of North Branford, that are on the system with their conventional systems, and that all has work that the core does. So it's not just the trunk system. So when you look at the push to talks, we've had 160% increase in push to talks from 2020 to 2022. The airtime is increased 150%. The trunk push to talks, and this is an interesting statistic, has increased almost 217%. So we've had a dramatic increase in the number of trunked push to talks, and that's because of the users that are coming on the system, whether that be the city of Bridgeport, whether that be the city of Stamford, whether that be the city of New Britain, whether that be any one of the number of towns that have joined the network since then. And that's all because of the capacity of the core. We haven't had to increase the capacity of the core to accommodate that. So wanted to bring that to your attention. Happy to entertain any questions.
I just want to add, so, big kudos to Scott and his team for, leading this process and getting all these folks onto the network. I know it's hard to comprehend the full magnitude of what we've been accomplishing here in Connecticut, but, it's almost impossible for us to quantify the savings and the level of interoperability that we've now provided to this state. But I just want, Scott and team to have recognition for all of their hard work and efforts. This is truly a statewide shared resource, which is breaking, long conventions in Connecticut of folks just trying to keep their own stuff. So just wanted to mention that as well. And Scott, thanks for the great overview of 2022.
As a early user, we are so happy we made that decision. And Scott, I think it's actually
John,
to enhance coverage in the Nathan Hale Forest area near going into Andover. So glad to hear that's there too. Just some of you may have heard me mention before, but Clayton did a presentation to ACR, the Advisory on Intergovernmental Relations, and they were very impressed with this radio system. Part of what their goal is to try to find efficiencies by doing things together. And I think this is a prime example of not only cost savings, but the interoperability is just amazing. I know it's great that I don't have to worry about the distance from my radio tower. I can find police members that may be down at the academy if I need them back here. So I think people forget the reach is also another issue of efficiency that besides cost that we haven't had before. We're always limited by how far you're away from your towers. So thank you very much, Scott, for all your work. This is an example of how working together, the state and the towns can do great stuff, and we're piggybacking on you. Thank you. Moving on, then, Network Control Center. Who's handling that?
So Julie Gatson, I see her unmuted. Julie, I see you. You don't have any audio coming out, but I can see you lighting up. So I'm not sure if there's something else that's muted. Well, while she's working out her technical issues, I'll kind of take this one a little bit. So we've mentioned it before. So we have a network control center. Initially, it was put into place 20 years ago to monitor the health of the land mobile radio network, which we were just talking about. And we have upgraded our relationship with Julie and her network control center, which is a contracted service. They're a private firm called Adesta. So anyway, we are enhancing our relationship with them. And in order to better serve the PSAPs, we're going to have them act as liaison between the resolution center, the AT&T 911 resolution center, and the PSAPs. And there's a number of reasons for this. And as soon as Julie, hopefully she'll be able to figure out our technical issues, she'll explain a little bit better than I can. But so one of the main reasons is we want to keep the dispatchers off of hold with the Res Center. We realize that when there's large issues with the 911 network or reportable issues, the network control center is going to take the brunt of that. And they're going to get the call from the PSAP, and then they'll make that notification to the Res Center. And also it's going to give us, we'll have better insight, and by us, I mean DSET, our engineering team will have better insight into what's going on with our NG911 network. As we know, it's not just the AT&T component. There's also the public safety data network, which the NCC also monitors, and also their various power systems that they monitor as well. I see Julie's coming back in, so hopefully she can explain this better than I can.
Are you able to hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yay! I'm so
All
sorry
right.
about that, folks.
I gave him a brief overview of what we're doing, but take it away.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So my name is Julie Gadsden. I'm with Adesta and Allied Universal Company. I'm in my 26th year now serving as a contractor here for the state of Connecticut. So when we first came in, we were involved in the implementation of the microwave network for CTS. So we've actually been here and monitoring the network throughout these 26 years. Expanded beyond just the microwave portion of it. We monitor all of the network now for the radio system. All the Motorola stuff, we monitor right down to a circuit level in our network control center. And over the years, a large part of that, we've continued to grow those responsibilities by, in the last couple of years, we've been working with DSET to monitor the backup power equipment for the 911 and PSDN out at all the PSAPs. And in addition, as Clayton was just saying, the latest portion of that is to provide help desk services for the PSAPs as well. We've been doing this for over 20 years for the Connecticut State Police, 12 troops that they have, where our position is they report the issues that they have with their phone systems to us, and we act as a liaison out to AT&T. We help with any ticket tracking, follow-up, escalations, things like that that are needed, with the idea of being able to keep the dispatcher focused on their duties, and we can spend the time on hold and so forth with the AT&T group, as well as being able to provide hopefully increased information, reporting, et cetera, to DSET for any outages that are going on. So Wednesday, we were very excited to have kicked off our pilot program with 18 of the PSAPs. Those PSAPs were notified as to who they were. So as of yet, we haven't really had a call come through that's been truly help desk valid. But what we have encountered was a way that we could actually assist a little further in regards to some maintenance type items. We know that AT&T tends to do maintenance on the system. And this has come up in the last couple of days where we understand sometimes the PSAPs are faced with people showing up. You guys aren't necessarily familiar with who they are. You know, they might be misrepresenting themselves. We know Message Center recently sent out a notification or a safety concern about this. So Clayton and I talked a little bit. So we've now actually gotten on the notification list from the service team with AT&T. So we'll be notified when service is going to go on at the PSAPs. So the PSAPs can call us as a verification to make sure that, yes, this person that's arriving at your facility is valid and, you know, is really there to do true work. So that's kind of what we've got going in a nutshell. Like I said, we're very excited about it. Our hope is really to make life a lot easier for the PSAPs when you're dealing with 911 troubles, because we know that those can be very frustrating, and let us take the burden of the extra work and follow up with the vendor. Any questions for me at this moment? All right, hearing none, I'll kick it back to John or Clayton.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Legislation, they're back in session. The commission is always at a little awkward who's in charge of legislative proposals. It really comes to Department of Public Service because we're kind of under their broad umbrella. So all I know is the longstanding PSAP consolidation wishes of the legislature remain in place and continuing to gain steam, although financially they haven't shown a lot of numbers that work or a well-planned study on how to make it work. And The state police kind of tried it and then ripped all the wirings out and then reinstalled all the wiring and went back to the way they were doing it. So that wasn't a good example. If people have ideas for legislation, now's an opportunity to talk or forward them off to Clayton. But we would probably have to go up to the chain of command to the commissioner to have it sponsored. And typically state agencies kind of have 1 or 2 shots at it. So there has to be strong priorities. So short of that, there's other groups that can support legislation like the Council of Small Towns or CCM. So I'll kind of open the floor up if anyone has any ideas, but typically we're a reactive agency versus a proactive agency, but that doesn't have to be the case.
And I just want to add that we are not, DSET is not following any active legislation at this point, either on the local, state, or national level.
Okay.
Is there any data that we're collecting that would suggest, consolidation versus the way we're doing it now? One way is better than the other.
I'll hop on that first, and you can follow up.
Right ahead.
The commission was ordered and paid for a comprehensive study probably now 5 years ago that had kind of mixed recommendations. There wasn't a huge cost savings that people thought. There were technological issues that some of which have been resolved through the radio systems, but so you can pick it up from there, Clayton. But the commission did spend a lot of money on a study.
Right. We and this was before my time, so forgive me if I misspeak of it. But yes, we did do a study a while back. It's actually published on our website. So for those that want to go and take a look at it, it was done by L.R. Kimball and Associates. It's very comprehensive. They went out and they met with every PSAP. Just a couple of things though. Since then, our world's kind of changed with the pandemic and everything. So I think there might be newer, better ways and more progressive ways, and I think we should look to what's being done nationally as because consolidation isn't just an issue here in Connecticut. It's across the country. So I think there's things that we can do, especially with technology, that might help the issues that we have with the 106 PSAPs that we have. And I do see Ralph has her hand up, so go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, speak up, Ralph.
Sorry. Is this better?
A little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just gonna add that OEMS through the Department of Public Health obviously did 2 studies where they invited the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to come in and evaluate the EMS system. In both of those studies, the recommendation was to consolidate and that we had too many PSAPs. Both of those reports are available and I can share them with you, but they are a little dated. I think one is probably 7 or 8 years old, and I think the other one is probably 12 years old. But both times that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration came into Connecticut, they recommended that we are way over in the number of answering points, and we should consolidate.
And the Fed, which does research out of the Boston branch, also recommended consolidation. So the legislature has a lot of people saying it's the way to go. And we'll see where that's the big issue that I think the legislative committees may come back, and the ACIR keeps on mentioning that too. So, we've been fairly neutral on it. I think everyone understands that the small call centers are really inefficient, and they're adding to system loading that could be handled. But something that if it comes up, we'll need to talk about. Any other legislative issues? It's a long session this year, so there's an old saying, life, liberty, and property are not safe while they're in session. Not quoted from me. It goes back into the 30s. So I think watching to make sure that harmful legislation is brought to people's attention is very important, because well-meaning intentions have unintended consequences sometimes. So leaving judgment on whether consolidation is a good or bad thing out, I personally believe that there are technological solutions that can make it better than it is today. But we'll move on to the agenda unless anyone else has anything. With that, seeing no hands, PSAP grants.
I think we only have, Mark, you only have one CapEx grant?
Yes, whoops. Let me just pull it back up here. In the second quarter of the 22-23 state fiscal year, one regional emergency communications center was approved for an individual capital expenditure grant, just shy of $50,000. And that's going to support the purchase or replacement of telecommunications switches. Total for the state fiscal year starting in July, we have 5 grants that were awarded for an amount of $305,000. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Moving on to training.
Good morning, it's Peter Luco, DSET. I have the update on telecommunicator training for the year 2022. We had 9 telecommunicator classes. We're now utilizing our new backup PSAP training room over at the Connecticut Police Academy. You guys haven't had a chance to get out there. It's a really state-of-the-art place. Been an excellent resource to hold our classes there. So 2022, 9 classes. We trained 139 dispatchers. The Connecticut State Police also holds our 3-day telecommunicator class for newly hired state dispatchers, and also training some troopers who are used to answer 911 calls at the troops as backups. They held 7 classes and trained 96 state employees on the telecommunicator training class. So going forward this year, we're on track to hold probably 8 or 9 telecommunicator classes, again over at our new training center at the Police Academy. And that's about it.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I guess we're on to Public Safety Data Network Governance.
Good morning, this is John Mascadrelli. So first I'll provide you with a Public Safety Data Network Governance Board meeting update. So the Governance Board approved the following applications during the October and December meeting. The Town of North Branford. So the Town of North Branford requested a circuit on the PSDN to provide connectivity to the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Networks core to support P25 dispatch console at the North Branford's PSAP. Valley Shore Emergency Communications requested access to the PSDN to interconnect radio consoles and transmitter sites, offering primary circuit coverage for the rollout of a new simulcast system. DEEP, Bureau of Air Management, requested access to the PSDN to transport air quality data from an air monitoring site located on Mohawk Mountain in Cromwell to the Groton Data Center. And the final one is the Guilford Police Department requested access to the PSDN to transport live school security video from Guilford High School to the police department. And the next governance board meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 15th. But at this time, we do not have any applications to present to the board. That may change though. So I'll provide you with the PSDN application status update report. So to date, 194 PSDN requests submitted to the PSDN Governance Board are in the pre-approval stage or have been approved and are operating on the PSDN. 181 of those requests have been raised, reviewed, and voted on by the board. All 181 requests have been approved to operate on the PSDN. To date, there are 171 requests operating on the PSDN. There is an additional 10 requests awaiting an implementation date or in the process of being implemented, and the remaining requests are in various stages of the connection process. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If not, that's my report, John.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Okay, moving on. I guess we're on to geographic information systems.
Good morning. This is Dan Chaya from DSET. As you can see from the report, we continue to update our GIS data. We've continuing to add new lines and new streets and new points. One of the big ones, if you have the map, there's a big red spot right where the airport is. We are in the finishing stages of finally. This has been a project of mine for years to try to get this done. They're actually adding real, honest to goodness addresses to Bradley Airport and all the buildings around it. Before they had nothing. They had building numbers and stuff like that that didn't really do anything. So the airport, with the help of Windsor Locks and East Granby, have finally addressed the whole place. So now everything will have a proper address. And now with routing, routing based on mapping with the 911 system, it'll help with the routing and location of any sort of emergency calls happening at the airport or all the businesses that surround the airport. We continue to improve our geocoding, our mapping of the alley data. It's up to 99.43 for the streets in the state, and if you add the address points in, it's continuing at 99.51. It's getting to a point where it's hard to get it up anymore, but we're helping. It should help definitely when we do the Bradley. The Master Street Address Guide for a 911, we continue to update and approve updates at the state level. We're actually up to 4,000 updates since 2010. We continue to assist the rest of the agency with GIS and mapping support, including GIS data and specific maps for the Crimes Analysis Unit. We continue to support the CT Alert with the Mapped Alley database. I actually just submitted the January 1st version to the system yesterday, so that should be up to date. And as a member of the Advisory Council, we continue to work on regional projects or statewide projects at the state. The big one that I'm involved in right now is the state flight, which there's going to be a flight in April 2023, as long as it doesn't snow, and April 2026. I can tell you that a vendor has been selected by the group, but there's no contract yet, so there's no formal announcement. But that should happen by the end of January. And then once that happens, it'll start going, and we should have it. We should have a brand new flight along with all sorts of ancillary data that's going to come with it. This project is mainly being supported by ARPA funding, so the state's able to get a lot of extra data, including LiDAR, and they'll be able to get bathymetry and things like that with it. So that's going to happen in 2023 and 2026, which is really nice. So we're good for the next 5 or 6 years. But that's all I have. If any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Dan, John, I have one question just for the town of Coventry. We consolidated 2 local roads with intersections on State Road into one 4-way intersection. How does that mapping? The addresses didn't change because we kept the roads and tore down one house that was in the way. How does that show up on the mapping? Does that wait till the flyovers?
No, if a town, any town, if they have information like that and they want to send it to me, I can make it I can get it to work. You know, I can fix our data. It might not be precisely where the road is, because if all you have, say, is like an as-built or something of the road, or like a plan, I can make it fit into our map, and then I can draw it. And then when we get the new flight, I can go back and just make sure all the lines are, you know, in the right spot. But I can update it. In fact, I just did one for Coventry. Stuart Cobb sends me a lot of things for a Coventry, and there was an update. There was a road that changed. I don't know the name of it, but
maybe that's it. It was
yeah,
Swamp Road, and Northfields no longer goes through to. Anyways, we'll take it offline. But
yeah, okay, yeah. I think I updated that, and that should be in the 911 system already.
Okay.
But
and
yeah,
does
but just
Google enough take the stuff off of yours, Google Maps and all that?
Google would have to, you'd have to send that to Google, or they figure it out themselves with their little cars. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they seem to find a way of fixing things. So,
all right.
But
when you move roads, it's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, and it happens all the time. So,
all right. Thank you.
Right. Yep.
Any other questions for Dan? Good to hear the flyovers in getting ready to hopefully start.
Yes. Yeah. Very excited about it. Can't wait for that.
Emergency notification system.
I will share my screen if that's okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin McManus. I'm an Everbridge contractor to the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services. I'm responsible for the statewide deployment, management, support, and training of the Connecticut Everbridge system, including the CT Alert 911, the state operational organizations, PSAPs operational organizations, and any, municipal instance that happen to integrate with 911 data. Looking at the roster, most of the group is familiar with how the system works, but the primary responsibilities and priority, of course, are the 911 life safety, state agencies that are considered critical. They have an emergency role, or they have a seat at the state EOC, and then the PSAPs for their own internal operational organizations. As I mentioned, I do support cities and towns as long as their information is going to be used in an emergency manner, so we can get those contacts back into the state system. We've been a provider since 2009. We're happy to say that we're starting our 14th year here in the state. I primarily report to Clayton's office and Kerry's office, but because of the nature of emergency notifications, I'm kind of spread across the entire jurisdiction. Emergency alerting authority falls underneath emergency management and homeland security. In addition to the traditional notifications of voice, text, email, we also integrate with social media, mobile apps, and we're starting to tie into automated web postings right now. Our generic rule of thumb for emergency alerting is the severity public protection. My first line in training is if you would knock on somebody's door at 2 o'clock in the morning to deliver them an emergency message, then use of the CT alert system is a no-brainer. As we've learned in previous meetings and throughout COVID, use of the system has kind of been stretched to the limit. But we've been able to get out in front of message centers, in front of the 911 centers, and kind of revamp the rules of engagement for sending these notifications. As of January 1st, we're at 4.2 million contact records in the system. This number does fluctuate based on our data that Everbridge provides. In addition, as we get new data, we see, and I continue to reiterate this, that our wireless callers, our cell phone numbers, have now taken over as the primary contact, the primary source of information, while our 911 database drops down to about 10% availability. We do still need to reiterate the CT Alert website. We need to do a PR campaign to get people to sign up for that. We also take information from the Office of Early Education, which is basically your licensed daycare centers. There's a statute for that, so that information ends up in the CT Alert system for mass notification. I'd mentioned that we have CT Alert Facebook and Twitter pages. As dispatchers undergo new training, the new templates they're going to use are automatically going to post to these sites, and then agencies and people can reshare that life safety information. There are going to be some cases where people don't want it posted. We'll obviously have that ability to disable those, but hitting the larger audience at this point during a mass notification has kind of been the largest request of municipalities and organizations. So for the last quarter of 2022, we had done a total of 16 life safety messages. Obviously, weather, we had some law enforcement related. We had 2 fire evacuation notifications, which is not a common messaging. One was the rapid escalating fire down in New London that took out a few residences, and they were afraid of it spreading across the point pretty quickly. We also had the swatting incidents, which unfortunately is a new fad, but they did share information among their communities that there were no emergencies. And I'll address again the missing elder, which seems to be a recurring theme, but we've had very high success. In all, for 2022, we only launched 73 life safety messages in CT Alert. The number is low, but in terms of life safety, I think that's a good thing that we didn't have to reach out to the communities. We stay engaged and integrated with the IPAWS, the Public Alert Warning System. That's the wireless emergency alerts that are forced to your cell phones, and the emergency alert system, which is the banners across the bottom of your TV. That system is activated through Emergency Management and Homeland Security. And again, we haven't had to send in any of those alerts out recently. We're still at 450 trained 911 dispatchers. I reiterate that my problem is people who leave agencies. Everbridge is one of the last people to find out about it. So I'm slowly, methodically trying to reach out to these dispatchers to see if they're still engaged, try to get answers from them. It's a very slow process, but then at the same time, as places hire and train people up, that number comes up and down. Across the entire state of Connecticut account, not including municipal accounts, we have about 1,900 users of the system. So I still have to manage their access and their roles if they have multiple responsibilities. In addition to the CT Alert 911, we have, as I mentioned before, state agencies, those key critical ones that play a role in notifying their staff, their employees, or their people who report to them. 74 911 centers that have special uses, and then we have dedicated training organizations now where a 911 dispatcher can come in and send messages, but it actually never leaves the platform. So there's no chance of them sending an accidental message in the training. It's disconnected from the system. In total for 22, across the entire system, over 9 million text messages, close to 2 million voice calls, and 3.5 million email messages were sent out through the Connecticut system. I like to review a couple uses, a unique one, which is not part of CT Alert. It's not part of any operational organization, but it's the Connecticut Drug Recognition Expert Program. This is a group of police officers across the state who are specially trained in investigations for intoxications outside of alcohol, but they did not have a real way to spread a message and say who's available for a call out. They were previously using a social platform called Slack, which is kind of a group chat message. It was not very powerful. People didn't get the alerts. They kind of had to keep it quiet in the background. So they came to us and said, can we use Everbridge for this? We kind of looked at who would be the responsible agency, and Department of Transportation kind of took on that. We've been able to move 50 officers from across the state, different entities, different agencies, to be able to respond if a drug recognition expert is available in a particular area. A little bit of kudos from the coordinator, Sergeant Plord, how it's taken the amount of time he had to navigate and reach out to people. Now when he sends that message out, people who are available, those are the only ones he has to interact with. So he's taken the time of reaching out to 50 people through a Slack message, trying to read a whole series of chats, I'm not, to quickly being able to recognize who is available. Another instance that happened in October, as I mentioned, the wandeраways, the elderlies, seems to be a fad recently. But use of the Everbridge system to send out a message that somebody has wandered away in a particular area. I think I'm up to 5 for 2022 successful notifications in a very short period of time. So back in October, Willimantic had one of these situations. in under 50 minutes, the person was located and it was related to the CT Alert 911 message that went out. For 2023, of course, we're going to continue with the 911 dispatcher training. Another thing that's been requested is pre-planned incident templates for a target facility, a target location. If a 911 center has a place that they believe could be a target of any kind of emergency, an active event, an active shooter, a threat, hazardous materials, they want to build templates ahead of time with the shapes and the entire message that's already agreed upon. So they just have to log in, they have the rights and credentials to launch that notification, and we're able to send that. An example of this that we're rolling out right now is the Department of Motor Vehicles office in Wethersfield. They want to be able to launch a notification not only to the building, the employees and all the desks, but also all the neighbors that a law enforcement incident is occurring, and in conjunction notify neighboring police departments all with one launch of a message. So that's kind of another direction we're going, pre-planning locations. I had already mentioned iPods. We're working with DSET and the Network Control Center as part of that 911 reporting system. So if there is a trend, if NCC needs to send a message out to a larger group of people that a 911 situation is happening, we were being able to launch that through Everbridge. And that's something that we also need help of all the PSAPs to keep their contacts updated. Of course, we have our mobile apps and other apps that are rolling out in social media connections, which we're going to continue to try to expand and make easier for the message operators. My information is available here. I can always be reached through the NCC or the message center, and I think 3/4 of the people have my cell phone numbers. So that is my report. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
John,
Thank
you're
you,
on
Kevin.
mute. There you
Yeah,
go.
thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Hearing none, let's go on to PSDN refresh.
Good morning, everybody. Chuck Fuller with DSET. Just a brief history on the refresh. About 3 years ago, DSET, in conjunction with BESS, now BITS, we had to go through a refresh of our two-phase PSDN network. The second phase, which is the CPT platform, has reached end of life as far as the equipment. And so we went under contract with Juniper Networks about 2 years ago and started immediately receiving equipment to refresh that platform. During that time, we found out that there was a silicone issue which would negate our platform after about three and a half years, in which the silicone product within those boxes, routers, switches would go to end of life. And we decided to back off and revamp. And we're in the midst of that right now. In the past year, we had to return several pallets of equipment to Juniper. They've received everything that we returned, and they gave us a voucher system to replace all of that equipment. So we're in the midst of receiving in our warehouses that equipment. We've gotten tons of equipment in. What we need to do at this point is to test it in the lab, and we're still looking for additional equipment before we can start rolling out and revamping all of the sites we have out there for phase 2. So that's where we stand with the refresh. We're still waiting on more equipment, and we're looking to do testing of the new equipment as it comes in. Any questions on that?
Any questions for Chuck?
John, I'll jump right into the next one. That's mine as well.
Okay.
We have currently 5 PSTN nodes, which are phase 1 nodes that are looking to move, and 23 possibly moving into 24. We have one node on the phase 2, which I just mentioned, Groton Electric Boat, which we should be ready to relocate that site to their new location at 23 Kings Highway in Groton within the next several weeks. The other 5 that are the PSDN nodes are carryovers. The Yukon PD, they've made some adjustments and they're re-outfitting their dispatch center. And so that's been prolonged, but we're still waiting on Yukon to complete their new dispatch center, which will be on the 2nd floor. And once that's done, we'll have to move the PSDN equipment accordingly. Westport PD is still in the process of looking to consolidate with the Fairfield County Dispatch. That is still pending. We carry over from last year is the North Branford PD, which they're looking to break ground and build a new command center PD. And once that's underway, we're going to have to relocate PSDN and 911 platform to that new location. 2 new sites that are looking to relocate or revamp their current PDs is New Canaan PD. They're looking to re-outfit their current location, and that's going to require us to move the PSDN and 911 apparatuses out of that facilities until they can revamp the location, and then we'll be moving it back. And then recently, Wallingford PD, which I had a meeting scheduled this week, but they were unable to, join. So it's brand new, and Wallingford's going to be looking to also relocate. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? If not, John, turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chuck. Hearing no questions, let's move on. PSAP PSAPs updates.
Right, so I think Mark Gorka just has a quick message on this one.
Okay.
Yep, we continue to work with Everbridge on collecting and maintaining PSAP contact information. I noted in the October report that we would be reaching out to PSAPs through Everbridge on a quarterly basis to verify contact information, and we will begin in the first quarter of 2023. PSAPs will receive an email from DSET through Everbridge that contains the names and contact information of the chief director and relevant staff. PSAPs will be able to verify DSET's records with a few clicks on Everbridge's online system, or they can simply send an email to dset@ct.gov to verify or note any changes. It's important to emphasize how critical it is for DSET to have current contact information on file. Having the ability to reach various members of the PSAP allows us to efficiently direct critical information such as outages and system updates to the appropriate PSAP personnel. It also prevents overloading the chief or director with unnecessary messages or directing messages to invalid addresses due to staff turnover. And partnering with Everbridge ensures that they have current contact information for their emergency alerts. And then we just saw all the important things that Everbridge does that Kevin talked about. And we appreciate the anticipated cooperation of the PSAPs very much. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mark. I guess we can move on to Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
Morning, John Hartenbaum, Operations and Logistics Manager for Demis. We continue to onboard and train new staff. Our staffing levels were low. We're finally getting to about full staffing now. With the start of 2023, we are going to continue to regularly test all of our radio communications and also emergency notification systems more regularly. We're reviewing the next generation of emergency alerting to be able to integrate iPause, but also be more readily able to send and craft emergency alerts and Amber Alerts using by connecting the EAS system to the internet and using different interfaces. And then lastly, we've received 6 compact rapid deployables or CRDs from AT&T FirstNet. These things fit in the trailer hitch of a vehicle. They can be easily deployed. They run off of satellite and can provide AT&T FirstNet only for about 2 miles. So they say. We haven't tested that specifically yet, but they are deployable devices that we do have on hand now. So pending any questions, that's the end of the brief.
Any questions for John? All right. Did that include your FirstNet update then?
Yeah, that's pretty much all we had the activity. So John and I are kind of tag teaming the FirstNet. I did want to just mention we have a 911 commissioner that's also been really helpful with FirstNet and AT&T mobility. So I just wanted to thank John Benedetto. We've been using him more and more as the relationship developed as he's a 911 commissioner. So I did want to thank him for everything that he's done for us of late, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So thank you, John. Appreciate all your efforts lately.
You're very welcome. Glad to help.
Very good.
Do we have any indication of how many community police departments, fire departments have enrolled in FirstNet versus what was the dominant Verizon?
I don't know that we have those numbers right now, but we can certainly reach out to our FirstNet representatives, and we can certainly get back to you on that one.
Because I know we still don't have FirstNet coverage in our town.
Yeah, and and I know we've definitely brought that to their attention, and hopefully there will be a solution sometime on the horizon. And I know John Benedetto, it works with that unit too. So if there's anything that he can do to help out in the Coventry area, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, the mobile units for searches in Nathaniel Forest would be helpful, but or the Hop River Trail. All right, thank you. Department of Public Health.
Good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. So the only two updates that I have is that we were approved and hired an MIH coordinator. MIH stands for Mobile Integrated Healthcare, otherwise known as Community Paramedicine. That may have some impact on the answering points, as one of the programs is nurse triage. We're having someone at the PSAP that would answer the call with the call taker and then direct the patient to the appropriate place. So that may be an impact, but it's in the early stages. We are just launching that, and I'll keep you updated as we continue to launch. The second update that I have is that OEMS in conjunction with the Department of Social Services working on an EMS work group that's looking at sustainability of EMS, and part of that is funding and part of that is rates. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Other than that, I have no other updates, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ralph? Hearing none, we move on to new business. Is there any new business? Then we move to public comment. The last opportunity for public comment. Is there any public comment today? So hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Ralph Calciano.
There's a motion by Ralph.
Second, Bob Guthrie.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I know that means unmuting. Thank you. So I appreciate all your efforts today to make time in your busy schedules to participate in this board and commission member. Again, if you have thoughts on bylaws or other issues for future agendas, please reach out to either Clayton or I. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Don't say anything.
So just click then, right?
Yeah. Did you do it?
I don't want it to not do anything, so what do I do? Just click on the little red dot?
No, so I don't know. It should, if you go up to where it says more. Oh, right here.
Stop recording, hit that.